And I think when you look at the evidence on public safety, I don't think that's where the challenge is.
Dwight, I think you answered my question pretty much already, but I think I speak for most of us when I say that the preservation of Measure 11 is of paramount importance. If you are elected Attorney General, will you fight to prevent any major changes to Measure 11?
Yes. Look, I've used mandatory minimums all my career. All my life as a lawyer, I've used mandatory minimums. They are an effective, a just, and an appropriate way to fight crime, to maintain public safety, and to hold criminals accountable and protect people. So I am ready to take on the challenge of defending Measure 11. I mean, when you look at, these are the most heinous and violent crimes, we're going to change the mandatory minimums for this? It doesn't make sense to me. And again, it goes back to what I said to Tracy. This is a question for me. If you're looking to save money, the right way to do that is on the prevention and treatment side. Otherwise, it's a Band-Aid, right? That's not the way to address it.
One more thing, Dwight. I would tell you that the Mexican drug dealers who are arrested on bias case refer to it as being arrested for murder.
Yeah, that's right, and that's exactly what we want. Thanks, Mark. That's great. That's great to hear.
What's your view of Measure 11?
Measure 11 was passed while I was a judge, so I've been pre-Measure 11 and post-Measure 11, and I can tell you that I liked it a lot better pre-Measure 11, and the reason was that it gave judges discretion to look at who a person was and what they came, you see somebody in the courtroom and they're a person, okay? And we know that, but we don't fully appreciate what they come with, what kind of childhood they had, what kind of, of course we have to assess the risk, and we always do that. But our hands as judges became tied in 1995, and I've been a judge for 6 years at that time. And I'll tell you, after that, I sometimes wondered why I was even sentencing the defendant in the case, because the sentence was already kind of a done deal. And it took the discretion away from the judges and it put it in the hands of the prosecutors. And the good news is, at least in Multnomah County, that for the most part, the prosecutor's discretion, in my experience, was generally properly asserted. And the judges were able to get involved and still today are involved in helping to sort of mediate sentences so that they are not so completely out of line. But the problem is that our prisons have just grown, the prison population has grown and grown and grown. I chaired the Governor's Advisory Committee on Corrections Population Forecasting for over 5 years and served on it for 10 years. And every meeting I went to, it was just more prisoners and more building of prisons to go along with that without any consideration, or very little, for the true needs of the people that we were sending to prison. We're letting out 4,000 prisoners a year, and we do not have the social services for them. We do not have the structure in place for people to be able to make it when they get out. They can't get jobs, they have a criminal record, they don't have housing, they don't have treatment, and they've gotten very little while they've been in custody. To the extent that there is some, it's still, studies show that it doesn't really help that much because they need the help when they get out, and frankly, they need the help before they get in. And that's the problem. We are not providing the kind of financial support and resources for our kids and our families to keep them from getting into the prisons in the first place. And that's when we have to start talking about funding education, funding health care, funding the kinds of services that are needed in order to reduce the population in the first place. Yes, we need to help people when they get out, but let's try to keep them from going in the first place. So Measure 11 needs to be looked at seriously. It is being looked at seriously. It's been almost 20 years. The time has come to take a serious look at what we need to do to make more sense out of the limited resources that we have, and to treat people fairly and humanely. I don't know if I should call on people because I see 3 hands, so just stand up and start talking.
Would you like to see the state of Oregon push back against the Citizens United case, and what could the state do?
I'm very comfortable with my management experience. I actually think I have more than my opponent in this race.
Judge, I want to talk to you a little bit about ballot measure 11. Mandatory sentencing, as you know, was passed by the voters in this state in 1994, and then overwhelmingly repassed when it was challenged. And there's constantly challenges, especially now in this budget climate. You can see the Oregonian working on it. You can see the governor working on it with a committee that did not include prosecutors, trying to sell, I believe, to the community that that's the place for sentencing reform, is to get rid of or to severely limit ballot measure 11 and other mandatory sentencing policies. I think, in my mind, for the position of the Attorney General needs to be someone who is strongly in support of the district attorney's position in the various counties in support of ballot measure 11. And I'd like to know what your feelings are.
Well, I have read the report that the group that did not include any district attorneys wrote. It was sent to me by John Foote, and I very much appreciate that, and Greg. And I also read the letter that the district attorneys wrote in response to it. And I agreed with that letter. I thought that letter was very well written, and I was stunned that there hadn't been participation by a district attorney, at least a district attorney, if not multiple district attorneys, sheriffs, others involved in law enforcement. And I'm pleased to note, as you know, that there is going to be, that group will be continued and that it will be enhanced and that there will be representation. I think 4 additional members, or perhaps 3 with one, I think, Governor Kuligowski is dropping off, so there's going to be a new person, the head of the corrections department, a DA, a defense lawyer, and a sheriff is going to be added. So that's a good thing. And I want to be at the table as the Attorney General to make sure that I have the opportunity to weigh in. But I am waiting to see what this new group comes up with, because I'm not prepared to say one way or the other that I would not support any changes in ballot measure 11. And I can't imagine that my opponent would say that either, because I think that would actually be irresponsible. I think it's important for us to take a look and see what's being proposed, see what the, and I'm going to put this in quotes, okay, because I've heard this term a lot, and I know you have too, evidence-based research shows. I know there's a lot out there, and I'm not sure that I agree with it, and I'm not sure that I buy it, but I definitely want to be more conversant in it, and I want to know what the proposals are going to be. I want to be at the table. And thank you for the question. I'm very concerned about it.
Well, Judge, that sort of avoids the real issue. Where do you lean one way or the other? Retaining Measure 11 mainly as it is, or to severely weakening it as it's currently?
I'm not leaning at all towards severely weakening Measure 11. Let me say this. I was a judge when Measure 11 was passed. And I was a judge, so I was a judge before Measure 11, and I was a judge after Measure 11. And I don't think you ever heard me, maybe there were other judges, but you never heard me saying, this is a terrible thing. We've had all our discretion taken away from us. That's just not how I ever felt about it. For one thing, maybe I was just lucky to be in Multnomah County, but I always felt like the district attorney's office did a fantastic job of using your discretion, which was immense, a lot bigger than ours, it turned out, after Measure 11 passed. But I think because of the manner, maybe this is just my bias, because of the manner in which the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office handles Measure 11 cases, I have actually felt that it has been very effective for the most part. And I have not been one of those people that you've heard screaming about Measure 11. You may have read the case that I wrote, State of Oregon versus Rodriguez and Buck. Anybody know that case? I was the author of that opinion. That, by the way, was reversed by the Supreme Court. But I supported Measure 11 in that case. I opposed in that case, and I wrote the opinion that lambasted the trial judge who decided that that was against the cruel and unusual punishment doctrine to have imposed those sentences. So you seem to be questioning my my sort of underlying philosophical views here, Mr. McDonald, but I think my track record is such that it actually runs counter to what you suggested. I have been very supportive of Measure 11. I have not argued against it at any opportunity other than to say, as I have on several occasions during the course of my campaign, that I want to be at the table. I want to hear what it is that these proposals are. I haven't heard what they are. Tell me what they are, give me a specific example, and I'll tell you what my position is on that. I served for almost 10 years on the Governor's Advisory Committee on Corrections Population Forecasting. I chaired it at least half of that amount of time. I am very aware of the problem that we have in the increasing number of beds that are required in order to house the number of prisoners that we have, the number of people that we are putting away under Measure 11. But you never heard me, as the chair of that committee, arguing that we should do away with Measure 11 either.